Today marks a historic moment in the life of the Church. Pope Leo XIV has released his very first Apostolic Exhortation, Dilexi Te, which means I have loved you. In this message, the Holy Father invites all Christians to rediscover the very heart of the gospel, love for the poor. This is not just another papal document. It is a warm, urgent call to conversion, to see Christ himself in those who suffer and are forgotten. The title Dilexi Te comes from the words of the book of Revelation, "You have little power, yet I have loved you." Pope Leo reminds us that Jesus' love reaches those the world ignores, the weak, the despised, the ones with little power. He continues the vision of Pope Francis, showing that holiness is measured not by success or strength, but by love, the kind of love that bends down to lift others up. Love for the Lord, Pope Leo tells us, can never be separated from love for the poor. When we meet the poor, we meet Christ himself. It's not about distant charity or abstract compassion. It's about encounter. The poor evangelize us. They reveal the living presence of Jesus. To turn away from them is to turn away from his face. The exhortation urges us to hear what Scripture calls the cry of the poor. Like God speaking to Moses from the burning bush, I have heard their cry and I have come down to deliver them. The Church is called to listen with the same compassion. When Christians close their ears to this cry, the Pope warns they also close their hearts to God. Poverty is not only about material lack, it is moral, cultural, and spiritual. It is a wound that touches the dignity of every person. Pope Leo dreams, as Francis once did, of a church that is poor and for the poor. From St. Lawrence, who called the poor the treasures of the church, to St. Francis of Assisi, who embraced the leper, to St. Teresa of Calcutta, who cared for the dying. The church discovers her true face whenever she kneels beside the poor. Charity, the Pope insists, is not optional. It is not an accessory to faith. Charity is the gospel lived in flesh and blood. The exhortation also explains what the Church calls God's preferential option for the poor. God himself chooses the weak, the humble, the ones the world overlooks. In Jesus, born in a manger, crucified outside the city walls, divine love takes the form of poverty. To follow Christ, therefore, means to walk that same path, the path of simplicity, compassion, and self-giving love. Throughout Dilexi Te, Pope Leo brings us through a living history, a chain of witnesses who made the poor their priority. St. Basil and St. Benedict, who made service part of monastic life. St. John Bosco, St. Clare, and St. Dulce of the Poor, who educated and cared for those forgotten by society. Through them, we see that Christian civilization itself was built by people who believed that to serve the poor is to serve God. The Pope reminds us that this is not a romantic memory, but a mission for today. Finally, Pope Leo calls each of us to conversion, to move from comfort to compassion, from indifference to encounter. He reminds us that poverty is not overcome by strategies alone, but by love that sees every person as a brother or sister. Christ has loved us first. Now it's our turn to love as he loved. Dilexi Te is more than a papal text. It is an invitation to look into the eyes of the poor and recognize Jesus there. So how is Christ calling you to love the poor today? What would it look like in your life to live as if I have loved you were spoken directly to you? If this reflection moved your heart, share it. Let's keep spreading the message of a church that walks with the poor, for the poor, and as the poor, because that is where Christ himself waits for us.